Are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to DC On Screen, a podcast about the DC Universe properties being produced for film and television. I'm your host, David C. Roberson, and this is my co-host, Jason.
Hello.
We are into the summertime. There's nothing new coming out. There's no new content. So we thought, what better time to jump back and talk about the quintessential DC property that's been brought to screen, Batman the Animated Series and its subsequent series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, the entire Dini-verse. So we're probably going to be doing this as a two-part episode. So no fears. We'll try to keep it in around about an hour. But first, we've got some news to get to. All right, I think we'll start off with television news. Now, this is pretty interesting. Apparently, they're developing a Hawk Girl series over at the CW.
Yeah, and I don't know what to think on a lot of levels. On the one hand, I'm happy to exist in a world where Hawk Girl seems feasible. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a good start, but I haven't even seen. All we've seen of her character so far is her looking up at a sky, and that was kind of an accident. Like they really did. They had no intention of doing that. I think they were even told they couldn't or shouldn't do stuff like that, and they basically brought her on set for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Do we get Hawkman?
Ciara Renee, though, the actress playing Hawk Girl, has tweeted and says that the rumors are false, that there will be no Hawk Girl solo show.
That would make more sense. That would make a
rumors
heck
had
of a
to
lot
come
more
from
sense.
somewhere. Those rumors had to come from somewhere. And they still persist. That's the weird thing.
Yeah. I don't know how they would actually get away with it either. Like they've already got a lot of money in that little pot. And what night is Legends of Tomorrow set to air?
Yeah, we're going to get into that in just a second.
Okay.
'Cause we don't know.
Oh.
Well, we can go ahead and say it, I guess. They've been saying that it was going to be January of 2015, mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they have bumped it to spring 2016. That is
an insult.
I don't think it is.
No, it's an insult to my patience. I'm sure it's a good idea. They could probably use a few more months to get it together. It'll probably be better for it. But man, come on!
And
it's
we'll
like
be
4
better
more
for
months.
it.
I've got to wait.
We'll be better for it because we're going to be covering Gotham, Supergirl, Arrow, Flash. I don't need Legends of Tomorrow right now.
But don't you need it right now?
It looks like we can. I really don't. That'd be good. Though I did. How awesome would it be if they cast Jimmy Smith as Vandal Savage?
Oh, God.
Just saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he could do it. He could do it.
I'm not saying that is at all what they are doing. I'm just saying it would be cool. Speaking of Legends of Tomorrow.
Mustache guy is Turpin. I can't remember his name.
Speaking of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, they have named their showrunner, and it is Phil Klemmer of the CW's The Tomorrow People. Yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
I don't know what that means. I heard, Tomorrow People wasn't very good.
Lies.
So I don't...
It was...
Lies? That was a lie?
No, that's actually not a lie. I want that to be a lie, but I'm wrong.
Okay.
I want... Okay, it wasn't very good. It was okay good.
Mm-hmm.
It was watchably good.
Right.
And did some damned interesting things every now and then. But, yeah, I kind of wasn't surprised when that show got pulled.
Yeah. Hopping over to Gotham. Are you aware that they have cast Tigress for the second season?
I was not. Who do we have?
Jessica Lucas is going to be playing Tigress. this version of Tigress is Tabitha Gallivan, and she'll have a brother, and they're going to bring some chaos. Let's see, what was his name? What was that young man's name?
Not one clue. Really not. I'm having to look up Jessica Lucas right now. She looks the part.
Her brother's name will be Theo Gallivan, and James Frayne from 24, Invasion, Fringe, True Blood, The Cape, White Queen, Grimm, The Tunnel, Orphan Black, Agent Carter, and True Detective.
Dear Lord.
Will play the billionaire whose altruism hides a century-old vendetta.
All right.
I don't even recognize him.
I don't have a clue. Let me see. Who do we got? What's his name again?
James Frayne. F-R-A-I-N.
Oh, him. Yeah, he's all over the place. And he's really quite good most
like
of the time.
Well, hey. Good on you, Gotham.
No, he's going to be fine.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Might class it up a little bit too. He's I've seen him do some stuff that's actually really deeply moving, but I've also seen him be on Grimm, so hey, you never know.
Yeah. All right, moving on to movie news. There are a couple of big rumors. There's a rumor that Chris Pine, the whole Chris Pine play, is going to play Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman thing was a cover up, that he's secretly going to be Hal Jordan in the new Green Lantern movie. There's also
No, I want Diggle.
There's also a rumor that Tyrese Gibson is going to be cast as Jon Stewart for Green Lantern. Essentially, the rumor seems to indicate that there are going to be multiple Green Lanterns in one movie. Chris Pine will be Hal Jordan, and Tyrese Gibson will be Jon Stewart. I really don't want any of that to be true.
Why? What would be wrong with a Pine Jordan combo?
Well, because I want Diggle.
Short of our insignificant and impossible dreams, what would be wrong with him? Man looks like a Hal Jordan.
Well, nothing.
I could get with that.
Nothing.
Brown his hair up a little bit.
Now, the more exciting rumor for me is a rumor that Chris Terrio, the guy that's writing Batman v Superman right now, and Ben Affleck are going to collaborate on The Batman for 2018 release. Chris Terrio writing, Ben Affleck directing. That might actually be good if they do that.
God. Somewhere Kevin Smith is just wetting himself right now.
Probably.
And if Affleck's not, he should be.
Nah, man, he's too busy, trying not to get divorced from what I hear.
Yeah.
Or trying to get divorced, whatever it is.
He doesn't have time for a family now. He's Batman.
By the way, jumping back to TV real quick. Apparently, Gotham is coming back. I believe it was September 26th.
All right.
And
whatever happened to late August, early September premieres, people?
Yeah, like The Flash is coming back October 6th. Arrow's coming back October 7th.
TV's going to drown me in 2 months of Mike and Molly before I get to the good stuff.
I mean, you don't have to watch Mike and Molly. I know it's on every damn station, but you don't have to watch Mike and Molly, Jason.
Well, in the same sense that you don't have to watch an OxyClean commercial at 3 in the morning, but it's all that's on, so it's happening.
All right.
I know more about fruit slicers than I ever would have liked to have known, and that's just because of insomnia.
All right, we're going to get into Batman the Animated Series and its subsequent series, the Dini-verse, as I like to call it.
Timm-verse has also come up. I'm fine with that.
Timm-verse has come up. It has. The original DCAU, as it were. Mm-hmm. There have been few things in this world that have truly propelled me into a state of Batman fanaticism. And when I was a young lad, those two things were the 89 Batman movie with Keaton and Nicholson, but primarily the subsequent 1992 Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
This is a show...
If you were in school, that's what got you through the last half of a day of school was, if I can just make it through this at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, they're going to air Batman.
They are going to air Batman. Now, Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, they redefined Batman in a lot of ways. They created backstories for villains that we didn't have. If you're looking at the Nora Freeze story with Mr. Freeze and his wife succumbing to an illness, and that's all Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. That's all Paul Dini, I should say. He wrote Heart of Ice. That
I don't even remember what his
Freeze,
Silver Age backstory was. It was just a guy with a weird hat.
Yeah, Mr.
He pulled him out of
Freeze
nothing.
Mr. Freeze was originally called Mr. Zero, and he was just a bad dude. He was a bad guy who cackled maniacally, and like he had an ice fetish. That was pretty much his entire shtick. He didn't have a backstory. Not only did he create complex psychological backgrounds for some of these characters, for many of these characters, this show also wound up bringing in new characters like Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Renee Montoya was a byproduct of Batman the Animated Series, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what are some of your fondest remembrances of Batman the Animated Series? Like, if you had a pitch to, because if you haven't seen Batman the Animated Series and you're at all a Batman fan, chances are something has happened in the world that wasn't supposed to. Like every iteration of Batman after Batman the Animated Series has drawn from Batman the Animated Series, from the comic books to the cartoons to the movies. At the
very least, they have Harley Quinn.
At the very least, they have Harley Quinn. Kevin Conroy is the quintessential Batman. Mark Hamill is the Joker. No questions.
Yeah, every person who's done the Joker's voice since Hamill touched it has tried to do a version of that voice. I don't think Ledger's even an exception. He didn't do the high-pitched maniac sound, but he sure as hell did the same kind of staccatoed crazy. He's probably the furthest anyone's gotten other than one Gotham movie, but that's a different thing. Since he's touched it, it's been flavored that way, and it will continue to be. The guy doing it now, what'd you say his name was? Tom Baker. He's just basically doing the world's best Joker impression right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish him the best with that. But it really, when you looked back at the series, like as a kid, I just remembered, I remember that theme. I remember that opening, the opening credits on this thing, that Danny Elfman theme, which had been around.
Mm-hmm. Shirley Walker putting her own spin on it.
Yeah, and Shirley Walker killed it as she went. It was amazing. She'd found new ways of she'd make sure that the main parts of the theme made their way throughout the show. She found this wonderful way of doing each character, so they had their own little musical cues. It was wonderful. But the thing I remember most about the show when I was a kid was it was dark and gritty, and really there was nothing campy about it, because right before that came out, me as a kid, it came out in 92. Before that, I'd had a few years of Batman, but you really just had the one movie. The one really good movie, at least. And there was some other stuff happening, but you basically had Michael Keaton and Adam West. And
right.
I still love Adam West. There's nothing you can take away from that series. At the very least, it's impossible to make fun of the Batman 66 stuff, because they were already doing such a good job of making fun of themselves. You just get lost in the sea of voices. It's impenetrable. They did what they did, and they meant it to be funny, and damn, West killed it. And when I was a kid, though, when I'm 3 years old, I'm watching this, and I just thought, Batman! That's all I knew. It had nothing to do with how it was making fun of itself. I didn't know what a fourth wall was yet. I was just happy to see Batman. And then I saw this Batman, and suddenly I knew that the other thing was a joke.
Right.
And every day you got home to watch this adventure, and there was nothing. I mean, you were a kid, and you were struck with the same sort of, you're just struck with the same sense of wonder you would have when you see a bat. But this one was a whole story. This one had adult themes to it. This one and it snuck it all into this little Saturday morning kid show. It grew the character, and if you were watching and really keeping up with it, if you were 9 years oldish or 8 years oldish and just watching the show for the first time, it probably grew you a little bit if you really paid attention to what somebody was up to.
Yeah, and even to give it some perspective, Saturday morning cartoon show. Within the first 12 episodes, we have an episode, It's Never Too Late. And this is an episode that focuses not even on Batman, but two of the mob bosses that are running Gotham City, Rupert Thorne and Arnold Stromwell. We're introduced to Arnold Stromwell's priest brother, who's still trying to get him to go on the right side of the law, still trying to save his soul. We've got Stromwell, who is sure that Rupert Thorne has kidnapped his kid. I mean, these are dark themes, and come to find out his kid he's in a rehab facility because he's hooked on the drugs that Stromwell himself was pushing. This isn't a 1970s after school version of this.
Think about the era we're in. Screw the DARE program. Just show that episode.
Right.
8 years old, that did more for me than anything I did at the assemblies at school.
This show had foreshadowing as well. Like, at that point, they had already introduced Two-Face. A 2-part episode, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, using Rupert Thorne, a mobster, and the district attorney. They don't pull those punches. They don't, say, oh, well, he's a high government official. They call him the district attorney. They have conversations that kids are ignoring. And then when you're an adult, you sit down and you say, oh, this show actually had substance and talked about stuff. But they had foreshadowing where there's a great scene in the mayor's office where you have Mayor Hill and I think it was POV, but I could be wrong about that. But it's Mayor Hill as Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Dent all sitting in the mayor's office discussing what they're going to do about. I think they want to do a SWAT team or something. And there's Harvey sitting in a chair, and his face is ensconced in darkness, and all you can see is the hand flipping the coin.
Right.
And they never go back to it in that episode. It's just, hey guys, yeah, we are doing Two-Face. We are going to do Two-Face, by the way.
And don't get me wrong, it was still a cartoon. Like you get through POV, and you get the Two-Face a couple episodes later, and you've got It's Never Too Late, which is just an insanely adult-themed twist. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to hit you with I've Got Batman in My Basement. It was still a kid's show. Or at least it was still a show that you could watch as a kid, and you wouldn't get too taken up. Like, I've Got Batman in My Basement is probably, you grab 100 BTAS fans and throw them in a room, 50 of them are going to say that's the worst episode.
Probably. But,
And the sad part? It's still not that bad.
No. I was going to say the underdwellers.
The low bar is really high.
I was going to say the underdwellers. The homeless children with the sewer king. I told you, Batman, they're my pretties. Ugh.
That's I know. But look,
I will say it is charming as hell in that episode. Even that episode is not bad because you have these little homeless children who live in the sewers, but they're running around town, and everyone is saying that they're leprechauns. And Batman winds up taking one home, and Alfred has to take care of him. And you just have a befuddled Alfred running around going, "Here now, Master Leprechaun."
I'm sure it was a funny sentence no matter what age I was at. But if you make it through the first season alone, you're going to have access to... And this is one you forget. You forget how good it is until you go back. But the Clock King episode. Man, that
Clock
guy's
King
ominous.
is a fun episode.
It is hard to make the Clock King seem scary, but that was the point of the show. Was they, and it's something that a couple of shows have done really well. A couple things, pieces of the main properties, pieces of the Nolanverse, and pieces of even the show Gotham Now have gotten parts of this right. And the amazing part for the animated series was they somehow got almost all of it right. Because when you read, and they have a writer's Bible that's out and available for people to read. I don't know where the hell you find it, but I've got it somehow.
You just download it. You find it. You look it up on Google.
It's out there, and it's worth the read. Just because look at the way they were setting up the show. They used a bunch of language that everybody has used. We want the show to be dark. We want the villains to take themselves seriously. The Joker's not just a one-liner machine. He's supposed to be a true menace. All of these. Everyone wishes they could have hit those beats. These guys did.
These were the guys that set the precedent. I mean, they were coming off of Tim Burton's movie and wanted it to be somewhat like that, but they were also very strict that they didn't want Nicholson for Joker. They didn't want like someone who sounded like Nicholson. They didn't want to follow. These were old school comic book fans. They didn't want the Tim Burton Batman. They wanted to create a proper Batman. They wanted the Denny O'Neil detective Batman.
And definitely a post Dark Knight Returns, let's get down to the grit era. It's since the mid '80s there, it's really been what that's about. Everything had to be as dark as it could be, and I was okay with that.
And hilariously enough, I'm just kind of scrolling around here on Google Images, looking at Batman the Animated Series, and as I'm thinking the show broke the mold because I'm remembering that they would for certain villains they would make two-parters. They didn't always do the 30-minute like, well, here's a bad guy and Batman figures out what he's up to and Batman stops him formula.
This is how Batman wraps this up in less than 22 minutes. Go.
Yeah, for certain characters like Clayface, I'm thinking they broke the mold. Clayface has a two-part episode.
Pun away, sir.
A two-part origin episode.
For Clayface.
For Clayface. And they make him this tragic character.
Yeah, you actually care by the time they're done.
This Matt Hagen, who was an actor, and he was disfigured in a car accident, and he's relying on a chemical to be able to morph his face into whatever he wants to, but it's highly addictive. And by the way, the voice cast on this thing, they've got Ed Asner playing the guy that created this stuff, Roland Daggett, and he comes back numerous times, and he is he plays it perfectly. But this is an addiction for this guy, and when he finally breaks into Daggett Industries, Daggett has his men do away with him, and the way they choose to do away with him is they say, "Oh, you want more Renew You? All right," and they hold him down and they pour it down his throat, like a gallon of this shit down this dude's throat, and we see it in silhouette.
Oh, it's way more than a gallon.
And that makes it.
They drown him.
Yeah, it's way more than a gallon. It is.
They kill him brutally in a back alley with a torture method.
Suffocating him. Like, this is not a kid's show. I don't care if you think it is. It's not.
And let me, maybe I didn't think of it in these words until this moment, but that I suppose is the purpose of this particular episode we're doing, is if you haven't already gone back and watched these episodes, our purpose is to prove that as an adult, you should do so. I hope you watched them as a kid, and I hope you had that kind of unmitigated joy, but go back.
Yeah, if you did see him as a kid and you haven't watched
real
them,
shit.
If you haven't watched it as an adult and you kind of have a vague remembrance, go back. You will find things that you did not remember.
Right.
I remembered
Unless you remembered it being utterly scary, in which case you were pretty much on point.
And they do a great, like, they don't actually just show it. They cut away to a silhouette of them pouring this shit down this dude's throat, and you can hear the choking and drowning noises. Mm-hmm. And they leave him in a car to die, but he don't die. He don't die, y'all. This is an origin story.
And they're doing origin stories up until, God, what is it, season 2 even? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like middle of season 2, like episode 40. They really give you the Riddler. It just keeps going. It just keeps going, people. There's Zatanna at the end of that season.
Within that first season, man, they do Appointment in Crime Alley, and I think that was based on an old comic book as well. But this is Roland Daggett once again.
By the way, is and this is something that the Diniverse did extremely well. They took a lot of stories that we cared about and found a way to put them on a Saturday morning cartoon, and respectfully so. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of major Batman stories that are covered in the course of this series, and there's so much respect for it too. There's no point where you're ever watching this series and you think, man, these people clearly didn't give a damn. I can guarantee you that will never happen.
But Appointment in Crime Alley, man, this is an episode where Roland Daggett, once again, Ed Asner, decides that he wants to expand, and he's been threatening to kick all. He's trying to get these homeless people out of their broken down, shitty apartment complexes in Crime Alley, where the Waynes were killed so many years ago. And I mean, this is basically this is a ghetto at this point, but he's going to kill everyone. Like he's hired arsonists. They're going to go in and they're just going to flat out kill anyone who's not willing to leave their homes. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not, the Joker creates a giant typewriter and he and Batman jump across the freaking keys.
There will be time for that. It's called Batman Brave and the Bold, and it's also worth a damn.
It is worth a damn, but for completely different reasons.
Different reasons.
One of my favorite episodes of this series, of the entire anything, just Batman.
I want to guess number 22.
22.
Joker's favorite.
That
is easily one of your favorite episodes.
Yeah. That is easily one of my favorite episodes. Oh, Charlie. Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. But no, I was going to say perchance to dream.
Yeah, that one's good too.
Bruce Wayne wakes up to find that the Batcave is gone, that he is not Batman.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other cat running around calling himself Batman. He's engaged to Selena Kyle, and his parents are alive. Man.
Yeah, and he's just so happy.
He's happy.
Just so happy.
He actually is so happy. He kind of goes nuts a little bit. He doesn't understand why he's not Batman. He's sure this isn't real. They convince him it's a dream, that it was all a dream, him being Batman, his parents being murdered. And then he goes to the library after he's happily accepted that his life wasn't so bad after all. And he opens a book and he can't read anything because the parts of your brain, as they put it, that you use to read with are opposite the part of your brain that you use to dream with. So he can't read anything, and he realizes that everything that he's experienced in this episode is a dream. And the steps he takes to get out of that dream. I mean, this is a simulated dream by the Mad Hatter.
Right.
But
Which is
it's a heartbreaking
pretty
episode.
good indicator of what this series can do, by the way, because we're talking about the Mad Hatter. This is not the scariest villain he's going to face. And yet, he still manages to give an honestly bad day to the Bat.
Oh, yeah. Played to perfection by Roddy McDowell, by the way.
Yes.
Younger people won't know who that is, but my God, go look up Roddy McDowell for your own sake.
You want some good voice work? Just go find that man. Now, all right, let's see. Season 1, just some of the emotional cues you're going to have is hit. You're already going to go through Heart of Ice, first of all. Mid-season, you've got Heart of Ice. We've already seen a couple of things. We've already seen, Two-Face come and go. We've already seen that it's never too late. You've made it through I've Got Batman in my basement, and there you are at Heart of Ice. Mm-hmm. It as a kid, you can't help watching the show because it's compelling. As an adult, though, you can't believe that an origin story on a cartoon for a terrible character could possibly be so good that you're thinking about crying at the end of that episode. But so help me, you are.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about.
Why'd you stop at thinking about?
Yeah.
You get to the end of that season even, and you've already got the Hatter messing with him. He's already been established. Dreams in Darkness. I am always a fan of a Scarecrow episode. It's just how I roll. But Dreams in Darkness, you're going to start off with an episode where Batman's in cowl and cape in an asylum in a straitjacket, explaining that there isn't more time. He can't explain. Yeah. I mean, Scarecrow is supposed to be menacing. That's his whole game. But they managed to make this tiny, unobstructive little Jonathan Crane this giant, scary thing. And you think you've seen the worst that he can do a couple times until you get to Over the Edge. Yeah,
Over the Edge is, for those who don't know, Over the Edge is that's going to be like Volume 4 if you're looking at the DVD set. That's after they've rebooted it for the WB, which isn't really it's not a reboot. It's just they've retooled it. It's set kind 2 years after Batman the Animated Series. Right. Yeah, they set it 2 years later. Robin is Nightwing. There's a new Robin.
Tim Drake, by the way.
They have changed the art. Yeah, they have changed, but with Jason Todd's backstory.
That it's not Jason Todd, but hey, can't have everything, guys. Sorry.
Well, he is Jason Todd. He's not our Tim Drake. He's not the comic book Tim Drake. But
it's a little bit of both. It's got the spunk of Drake and the detective skills, but he kind of came out of.
But
Jason's
Over the
story,
Edge,
essentially.
Over the Edge is a fantastic story. Fantastic.
I mean, we're going to talk. Over the Edge is an episode that starts out with Gordon chasing down Batman, shooting at him, and saying it's over. They are running through the sewers of the Batcave, which has now been breached by the Gotham Police Department.
Right. He's screaming, "It's over, Wayne."
What else do I need to tell you? Why would you not already be watching this episode at that point?
Right.
Well, we can get to the season 4. A couple things happened in season 4 that were sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. I didn't like the redesign of the Joker. I think he looks like an anthropic roach somehow. Just never cared for the beady-eyed look. Mostly because I loved that old look so much. It had so much character. It just I imagine it was probably expensive to get him to keep him as animated as he deserves to be.
Well,
but
they were looking to streamline the entire process, and by the time they got to Batman Adventures, or Batman the Animated Series Volume 4 as it's known now, I guess. But they had already done a couple of seasons of Superman the Animated Series for WB, for Kids WB. And they only had the one season of that new rebooted Batman before they started making Batman Beyond. They ended it. Right. They ended that version of Batman, the new Batman Adventures. But it wound up being a fine setup and a fine wind up to Batman the Animated Series, because, like I said, these characters have arcs. Even within the original 85 episodes, hell, even within the first 65 of that first season, we have arcs. Like, we find out, like, we meet District Attorney Harvey Dent, who is, unimpeachable in his moral character. And a few episodes later, we meet District Attorney Harvey Dent, who has a dark side. And before that 2-part episode is over, that man is Two-Face. And he has lost every damn thing that has ever meant anything to him.
Right.
So by the new Batman Adventures, we get a good tie-up.
The best part of Two-Face, too. The fact that him and Batman, when it was just Harvey and Batman, were really good friends. One of, like, 2 people in Gotham that Batman implicitly trusted. 3 if you include Alfred.
Right. I mean, this was, like, new Batman Adventures. I don't even remember what it was. Like, they did. They had crossovers with shows like Static Shock. Static Shock is, by the way, in this universe, probably my least favorite of any of these shows is Static Shock. But it earns its stripes, and it has crossovers with not only Batman the Animated Series, but Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, and Batman Beyond, and Static shows up in Justice League. So it was created by Dwayne McDuffie, obviously, who's no longer with us. We won't be getting any more of his particular style of storytelling.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's definitely worth a watch. But as for Batman, though, I mean, that I kind of almost count the Superman episode Nighttime as an episode of Batman the Animated Series, because
you should.
This is the episode where it was technically a Superman episode. This is an episode where Roxy Rocket winds up popping over. I know it's a terrible name, but she's kind of a badass. Winds up over in Metropolis. Okay. Winds up over in Metropolis, and we've already had a great, like, the second or third. I think it was the second season of Superman starts off with World's Finest, which is, in case you didn't know, Batman and Superman teaming up. It's a 3-part episode where Joker and Lex Luthor get together and try to take down the Man of Steel, and Batman shows up.
They kind of switch roles a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really fun episode. We've got Bruce dating Lois Lane. We've got Batman and Superman measuring dicks. It's a whole lot of fun,
which is always fun.
Harley Quinn and Lex Luthor's bodyguard Mercy fighting it out, duking it out. It's a lot of fun. But Nighttime is, Batman has gone missing, so the Gotham has gone completely batshit crazy, no pun intended. So Superman decides to come to town and dresses up as Batman, and it's just a whole hell of a lot of fun. Like, you've got Superman putting his fists on his waist, and smiling, and Robin kind of nudging him, going like, "Don't do that shit. What's wrong with you?
Don't smile. Don't smile."
Don't smile.
Sure,
don't
Robin
smile.
didn't say "Don't do that shit."
He did not say
Jason
that.
Todd.
But within the 24 episodes of that of those last 24 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, the new Batman Adventures, we get Mad Love. We get Harley's origin story,
Mad
which is
Love.
done.
For God's sake, you got Mad Love. That's enough reason to watch that far anyway, isn't it?
the comic book itself that Paul Dini did was pure genius, and they mostly did it justice in the episode. Of course, one of the big hang-ups is that it's done in the new style, the streamlined style where Joker looks like, what was it you called him?
An anthropic beetle or an anthropic cockroach. I go between.
Yeah, I think you said
sort of
roach.
Human-sized purple bug.
He's not purple. His face is still white.
He's always purple. I assume that purple is like the exoskeleton of whatever bug it is he is.
Yeah.
Now, as much as I hated the Joker redesign, I get it for money. I get it for money. The voice acting's still there. It's annoying every now and then.
No, yeah.
I'm still happy. But as much as I didn't like that redesign on the character, God, the Scarecrow looks good on that redesign.
Yeah, the Scarecrow is messed up, and he's actually voiced by Jeffrey Combs in this version.
Yes, Jeffrey Combs, the man who is everything.
The man who is everything. He's like 25 characters in Star Trek. He's the Reanimator. Look up Jeffrey Combs. Do yourself a favor and have some fun.
Yeah, scroll down his IMDb. It'll take you about 30 minutes. We could spend pretty much an entire day just rehashing the animated series and some of the episodes. We could. And I could spend at least several days, because if I just started to try to rehash it, I would just end up rewatching them, which is actually what's happened. Like I've started rewatching them now just because. Well, let's face it, that's the whole point. It's summer. There's not a lot going on, guys.
Yeah.
You just catch up on what you have that you know is good. And since I'm not going to go back and watch the Nolan films unless someone forces me, this is what I've got. God, The Man Who Killed Batman. The speech alone in The Man Who Killed Batman.
The eulogy.
The eulogy.
Oh, man.
You have to imagine, if you haven't seen the episode, you have to imagine a world where this pissant nobody essentially accidentally shoves Batman off a roof. He's just the wrong place, the wrong time. And this is something you hear Batman say in the course of the series, actually. I forget exactly where in this particular verse it is, but he actually says, one day somebody's going to get lucky. Stray bullet, something. But someday someone's going to get lucky and finally get me. And he's right. It'll have to be luck. It'll be a stray bullet bouncing off God knows what. It won't even be a bounce that like Deadshot was planning. It'll be some weird bullet, which is fine. But this one plays right into that. It's just it's a nobody who happens to be that guy. And now he becomes the man who killed Batman. Well, in the underworld, that's a cause for a lot of applause. A lot of free drinks are coming your way, except the Joker. You've taken away his life goal. You don't want to take away. You don't want to. Anything you can do to stay off the Joker's radar is the best thing you've ever done in your life. So taking away his main purpose in life, probably not going to end well. And sure enough, here we are. And he gives this enticing eulogy about
he does.
Batman, his friend who's passed, and this, I forget what he calls him, sniveling weasel or something that was responsible for it. And
sniveling little Gunsel, I believe it was.
Sniveling what?
Sniveling. The sniveling little Gunsel who sits there in our midst.
That beautiful man. And talks, just waxes poetic about, the times he put a whoopee cushion in the Batmobile and things that he will never be able to do. And fantastic stuff. And in true Joker style, goes through this intense roller coaster of a speech. His cronies have even taken their hats off and have it over their chests. And
right. Harley's
of course, he ends
weeping
the entire speech
uncontrollably.
with Harley's crying a little bit. Even the dogs, even his two little hyenas look sad.
They do.
And then, of course, in true Joker style, he ends the entire speech as he's pulling the lever to send this poor pissant into a vat of acid. Well, who wants Chinese? Who's for Chinese? I think it is.
Yeah.
Just watch that one speech. Just watch that one speech if you haven't, and see if the show doesn't give you something to look forward to. Now, and by the way, there's a lot of funny in the show. There really, and a lot of it has to do with the Joker. It really does. They make the Joker both funny and scary as shit.
Or the Penguin.
Or the Penguin. But that's
to
more,
this day,
there's
there's
just a matter of word choice. That's really what that is. My fine feathered.
There's an episode.
Come on.
There's an episode called "Almost Got Him," where we've established all of the main villains, and at this point they're all just they're in like a sleazy
there's Killer
dive.
Croc there, by the way,
and Killer Croc is there, and they're in a sleazy dive.
Refuse to call him a main villain. Sorry.
Right. They're in a sleazy dive, and they're playing poker. And Harley comes in, and not Harley. Pamela Isley. Ivy. Poison Ivy comes in, and previously, like in a previous episode, we know that she almost killed District Attorney Harvey Dent, who is now Two-Face and sitting in said bar. And she comes in. She's like, Harvey, you're looking well. Well, half of you, or whatever. Like they've got this little catty relationship, and he says something like, half of me wants to kill you, and what does the other half want? To crush you or something. It was something like that. But they're trading stories about how they almost got Batman. They almost killed him, and it sounds like a cheesy episode.
They're reminiscing about the time they almost got him. I mean, it's
right.
It's a bottle episode in that sense.
It sounds cheesy, but it is sick. Like the Joker's especially is just very disturbing because he's trying to, as he's listening to them, he's making fun of everything they're saying.
Oh, the best part is Killer Croc's retelling, and he's not a smart man. So his big retelling
everyone,
of the
by the
time
way,
he nearly got him is, and I threw a rock at him, and what happened? Well, he dodged it.
No. It was like everyone's gotten these big like vignettes where you actually see what happened, and then we close in on Killer Croc, and he's like, "There I was, holed up in this quarry. Batman had me cornered, so I threw a rock at him." And they all just stare at him, and he goes, "Well, it was a big rock."
There we go. That was it.
Yeah.
They all just look at him.
But the best part of that episode is just because it seems like like an old episode of Super Friends or something, the premise. But none of it is like that except for Penguin's story. Penguin, who's this very like the studio made them design him like Danny DeVito almost from Batman Returns,
and they managed
because
to do
that's
something
what
that no one in the history of media has ever accomplished before. They classed up Danny DeVito.
But even with that grotesque design, they made Penguin this sycophantic little like snob. He wants to be part of high society so badly.
And there's a touching episode about it. And I could say that about any character, almost any character. You could pull him out of the hat, and I could say, and there's a really touching episode about him. And with Penguin, he's no exception. He gets out and he tries to go straight for a minute. Tries to actually go straight, and high society basically just treats him like an ugly outsider. They acknowledge that he has money, but they will not acknowledge that he's worth their glance. He's not one of them. End of the day, he's not. He doesn't look like them. He doesn't act like them, and they will not accept him. And so help me, you feel bad for the Penguin by the end of that episode.
Yeah,
because he honestly did try, and he even finds a girl that he actually tries to protect her in an alley, for God's sake. And then he remembers he's the Penguin and kind of does some fucking up of some folk. But come on, before that, you felt bad.
Yeah, you do. But man, he's got this great bit where he's like talking about. They actually interrupt his little vignette. He had lured Batman to his lair, essentially, that he has deemed his aviary of doom. And he mentions that phrase. He says, "I've lured Batman to my aviary of doom." And we cut with Joker's voiceover coming in, and he goes, "Aviary of what? Sheesh fingers, how cheesy can you get?" And he's like, "Fine, so there we were in my big bird house." Even makes the crack like, "Just because you cretins have no drama in your souls."
Yeah,
is pretty brilliant. It really is. Oh man, we could.
It's pretty great.
By the way, Batman the Animated Series also encompasses Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, which was theatrically released. And
yes, so there's a proper movie involved, and there's a ton.
This is actually Batman's origin.
Batman Mask of the VHS movies.
Well, there wasn't really a ton. There was Mask of the Phantasm, which was theater, and then there was Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, which ties up. That's a bridge between Batman the Animated Series and the New Batman Adventures, or Volume 4, as we've been calling it. And that wraps up a fair amount of Mr. Freeze's story and wraps up the animated series to a fair extent, at least in as much as it bridges the gap. It's the last time we see the proper Batman the Animated Series character designs. And then
everything else is heavily reminiscent of it, but over the years it starts to change a little.
There's Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, and that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as like in canon, some will say Mystery of the Batwoman is there, but I don't consider it canon for a number of reasons. We won't be going into that movie.
Right. I said earlier the low bar was pretty high, and I tend to forget about that when I say stuff like that.
Yeah.
I do. But here's the thing, like, is the show actually did manage to be funny. I mean, it was amusing even as a kid, but again, you're a kid, you're just happy to see Batman doing some Batman stuff. But you go back and watch it now, and it's actually got a couple of pretty decent laughs in there. What you're going to get a lot of more is it's got this the way the show looks and feels. It really is. It's like you took Orson Welles like the day before he was going to conceive Citizen Kane. You like trapped him and put him in a room with nothing but the Gotham intellectual properties, and this is what would have come out. And I only say Citizen Kane because it heavily uses shadow. I swear, like, and this is a thing that Bruce Timm did early on in the show was instead of using white backgrounds and white cells to do the animation, they used black velvet and painted on top of that. You want to talk dark?
Yeah.
They're literally going to start with a black canvas and work their way backwards. Like the show is noir. It every turn, like even we go to episode 40 there where they introduce the Riddler in any real context. It's him and the Minotaur maze and everything, and there's perfect scenes, and they do this scene a lot where somebody's sitting behind a desk and intimidating someone else, and they'll do the thing where there's a diagonal shadow across the entire character, and you only see the bottom half of their body and like the lines off their jaw, and then they'll do the zoom in, and you can tell it's meticulously painted. They got so good at that design. It was just it really, God, it's a gorgeous show.
It is.
You can easily forget that this is a cartoon at times because every now and then you'll see a scene or you'll see a shot and just think, God, that's so pretty. That's what Gotham should look like. Really easy to forget. But it did something else though that was a lot of fun. And we talked about like with Nora, you can let out a tear or two watching Heart of Ice and not feel bad about yourself. There are other scenes. You can be a full-grown adult, watch this show, and it will get to you a couple times. My favorite, even beyond Nora, is Harley's Holiday.
Oh yeah.
God. Harley. There's a lot of this. They do this a lot. There's probably a good 5 or 6 different villains that they let them try to go straight, and she's no exception. She gets out on bail. She doesn't get out on the Joker parole system this time. She actually gets out on bail and tries to make an honest go of it. The Joker obviously is, he's not too deterred. He thinks she's just going to come back naturally, and she will, so whatever. But she tries to make an honest go of it, and people keep misunderstanding her. She is crazy as hell, so that makes sense.
But she's trying.
People keep assuming the worst of her, and she actually means to, like, for instance, she goes into a shop and means to buy a dress. Actually means to buy the dress. Everyone assumes that she wants to steal the dress and locks themselves down afraid of her. Even called the cops. They give her, she tried. But the touching part of this episode is she tries to go straight. It kind of drives her crazy because no one will accept her as being anything other than the crazy menace that she's used to being. So she turns into it. And by the end of the episode, she's running around with those hyenas and blowing shit up as normal. She's just back to being Harley. And, of course, Batman, who never, he was happy to see her try, but he never really believed it. And that's the attitude he takes on most of these people. Pretty much everybody but Harvey Dent. He assumes that they're just going to screw it up somehow, but he's glad to see him try, but he just keeps an eye on him because it's only a matter of time before he has to put him back anyway. Well, it's fine. But with her, the touching part is she went in to buy that dress and couldn't get it. Into the episode, Batman, Batman's it up and sends her back. And he's sitting there with her outside of her jail cell right before she goes in, and she's asking him, like, why would you spend so much trouble on me? And he pulls out this dress out of this little bag and gives it to her and just says, I had a bad day too once.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just little bitty moments like that throughout the show where you're gonna watch it and just think, come on, you can't be serious. I'm crying at a cartoon. The hell's
Speaking
wrong with
of
me?
which,
There's nothing wrong with you.
Episode 70, House and Garden. Oh my God!
Again, another
This
case
is one
of
of
someone tries to go straight and it just doesn't take.
But they don't. They don't try to go straight. That's the whole thing.
Well, they use the plot at least.
They use the plot. Yeah, this is a Poison Ivy episode, if you couldn't guess. And this is one of the most viscerally disturbing episodes.
Because those little pod babies are creepy as all fuck?
Yes.
I kind of... there's one shot in particular of Ivy sitting there, and
my
the little pod babies are just bouncing up and down, and apparently they come out of the womb battle ready, by the way.
Well, she gives them an accelerated...
Training.
Well, no, there is a pause for training. Like, she gives them, like, it looks like juice boxes with accelerated formula, so they'll become okay. So there are these like giant hulking green things that are killing people, and Batman highly suspects, based on their biology, that Poison Ivy's controlling them. But they're like, oh well,
giant,
it can't
angry
be
plant thingies. So just go ahead and assume Ivy.
Yeah, and of course Batman does, but they're like, oh, it can't be Ivy because she's reformed. She's good now. And she's married this dude, and they have a couple of kids. They're his kids, and they've accepted her as their mom, and or as at the very least a very close stepmom. And everything seems good. The kids' names are Chris and Kelly. I don't know why I remember that, but I think it was the androgyny
they're just so
of
damned
it.
Relatable.
Well, that was the crux of figuring out how she's doing it. Because Robin knows this guy. Dick knows this dude because he was one of his professors. And Batman can't find a flaw. He's like skulking around outside of her house and everything. And she's just taking it all in hand. Like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, you're not going to find anything, Batman, but have a good day, sweetie. You know, and she's actually being genuine here. This isn't like catty, I've got something I'm hiding and you don't know it. This is, oh, Batman, don't you understand? I finally found everything I wanted. And he can't find a flaw in the story until Robin mentions his professor's two daughters, and he's like, "Wait, daughters?" And he's like, "Yeah, Chris and Kelly." He's like, "No, Chris and Kelly are boys." He's like, "No, Chris and Kelly are girls." All right, we're turning the Batmobile right the hell around.
I knew it. And he really is. Like, the whole time, it looks like Isley's going to take a straight turn, and he's just sitting there the whole time, kind of, No, she's fine now. She's raising a family, and right. So this is going to end poorly. I don't know how yet.
And sure enough, she couldn't replicate the female DNA, but she could replicate the male portion of that. So it was she has these little boys that grow out of pods in her basement, and Batman figures it out. She's like, "I knew you'd figure it out eventually." So I've prepared an accelerated formula. And so they have their throwdown, and, you know, of course, Ivy goes back to... Well, actually, Ivy disappears, and they can't find her. And Batman was like, for what it's worth, I couldn't... I thought she was... It seemed like she was being straight with me. And we get this shot of Ivy on a plane, looking longingly at this picture of her and her family, and she's openly, just quietly weeping, because for just a moment, she had everything she actually ever did want. Like, even to her own surprise. Like,
she kind of exposits during that episode that she can't have children anymore, and that's kind of one of the... It's just a side effect of her, like, increased immunoresponse. Because Ivy, that's part of the whole thing with Ivy, man. She's got there's some weird biology going on, and, you know, apparently sterilization's on board with that. But yeah, she's sitting there looking through a photo album at the end of the episode, just quietly sobbing to herself over the wedding pictures.
Oh, man, what a good show.
I know. They care about these characters. They really do. And there's nothing throwaway about it. There's parts of, say, Gotham, the show that have done... I feel the need to say the show in the context of talking about this for some reason. But there's parts of that show that they've done really well, and you can tell there's a lot of love for the characters. And then there are just throwaways. This show didn't have throwaways, and I've seen it be one of the things that someone had a problem with was, well, you could have, there's a lot more villains, you could have used a lot more. Screw that. No, they picked a handful of major Rogues Gallery members, and they developed them over the series. Even Killer Croc has an emotional moment. I cannot say that with enough surprise in my own voice. Killer Croc.
Yeah, and it was one of those where as a kid I didn't even care for the episode that much, but as an adult going back and looking at it, I do find myself welling up at Little Flipper Boy and
That
Killer
little
Croc's
Flipper Boy.
relationship.
He just accepts him. That's all.
This is
and, even
this
as
is
a kid,
again,
I remember thinking that was pretty touching because it's a very Disney kind of brave little toaster kind of feel, right? He's got.
Yeah, I mean, this is again
Killer
one
Croc
of these
is
episodes.
Killer Croc anywhere else, but in this little circus family, he's just a dude, and they're all weird, and they just like him because he's like them, and it's that simple. They never thought about doing anything other than accepting him, and he cannot get that through his skull.
You have Killer Croc, and Batman's escorting him. He's being transferred from one facility to another. And he breaks free, and he and Batman have this. It feels almost like a cross country chase, but it's just over some very
it's a
mountainous
damn hike
areas.
Is what it is.
Yeah, and like there are mountains involved, and woods and shit, and waterfalls and stuff. But Killer Croc winds up trying in his efforts to get away from Batman, stumbles upon an old timey freak show. This little circus family who they've basically made a family for themselves, and they're not accepted in general society.
They're retired from the whole freak show thing. They just kind of
because
they run their own
they just want to be real people.
Little farm,
and he's accepted there, and he's been hurt, and there's a little boy with flippers who saves him and looks up to him. And, of course, he finds out about some things. They've got some cash hidden away, and he goes to find it, and the little flipper boy's like, "What were you doing, Croc?" Nothing, kid. Don't worry about it.
That's what starts to get you. That's what starts to get very Disney about. Is like the little flipper kid has no idea what he could be doing with that money that's not his.
Right. But dude, even the baby doll episode, like it's a stupid episode. It is.
It's a terrible character. I hate her. I hate that character. But damn it all, they made you care.
Mm-hmm.
It was. It's a genuinely good episode. And the baby doll thing is just this full grown woman who has a genetic disorder that won't allow her to grow past about 7 years old's worth of actual humanly form. So needless to say, that drives her a bit insane after a while. Child star turned adult child star. That probably does a number on somebody. Speaking of the two, though, it's one of my qualms with this series is that baby doll Killer Croc relationship thing was just so damned weird.
It was weird, but they were two freaks of nature. I can kind of see it, but
the only thing about it that I could really get behind is that Croc looks as annoyed by her as I am. She keeps giving him the whole, like, we're going to love each other forever and ever and ever. And Croc just keeps... He does the quintessential male thing where every time she says the word love, he creeps a little further away from her. He just skulks a little deeper into the sewers every single time she...
Now, we would be remiss to not mention... There are so many great episodes. So many. But we would be remiss to leave Beware the Grey Ghost out of our conversation.
I agree.
Beware the Grey Ghost is an episode that focuses on a man who once played the Grey Ghost, who was Bruce's hero. Like, Bruce used to watch Grey Ghost with his father. And a series of crimes start happening, and Bruce recognizes as a fan of the Grey Ghost that this is just like an episode from the Grey Ghost. Almost a precursor to Batman, as it were.
And they use him as kind of, in a lot of versions, it's basically some sort of Zorro-esque figure that Batman is a fan of when he's a kid. It's always a human vigilante, though. That's the main theme.
The first person he decides to look into is Simon Trent, the actor who played the Grey Ghost, who is on the verge of bankruptcy. He lives in a bedroom-sized apartment. His life is terrible. He can't get a job. Everyone remembers him as the Grey Ghost, and he's voiced by Adam West.
Yeah, that's what'll get you.
And Adam West does a fantastic job of portraying that. I can't imagine why, but
Batman. It's been a while since Adam West saw a one-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, but Batman, after having suspected him, realizes that no, I have to inspire him somehow, and winds up realizing he owes a great deal to this man because this Gray Ghost partly inspired Batman. And damn it, we actually get, Adam West and Kevin Conroy running around together in costume, animated, but still.
I would have taken the live action
to help.
too.
Yeah, me too. But he's trying to help Batman out.
And my gosh. Is it not Toy Man at the end of that episode? It's a guy with a bunch of toys at his disposal. I can't remember if it was properly the introduction of Toy Man or if...
No, he was. He called himself the Mad Bomber, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it was based on the character from the Gray Ghost.
Now, what it reminds me of though is, or what I was thinking about with that. I'm just thinking of the toys, and again, I can't. Let's put it this way: this series, this universe they created from Batman the Animated Series all the way through Justice League Unlimited is so good that you fear Toy Man by the end of it.
You do. He's a creepy bastard.
He's a creepy-ass bastard. And when we go through the rest of it, and we'll get into this in a second, I suppose, with Justice League, but we're talking about a man who at one point takes out Superman. Toy Man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do want to say, verily, 'tis my dark brother, Hades of the underworld. So,
good, dear God. So as Dave points out, not all of the show was great.
Dude, Fire from Olympus was amazing.
Not even they could save Maxie Zeus.
Maxie Zeus was hilarious.
He really is funny.
Even it was. It's almost like I meant to go back and look and see if that was in any way. I wanted to go back and look and see if that was John DiMaggio doing Maxie Zeus. I doubt it, but he did. He's very much Aquaman from Brave and the Bold. Like
DiMaggio's career shouldn't have quite been going yet.
Yeah, I don't think it was there yet, but
should have been right before he was.
Dude, this is a guy that thinks he fancies himself Zeus, like proper, and he's sitting atop his like corporate building, and he's got like these Roman pillars, and he's constructing a device that will shoot lightning, and Batman comes to stop him, and he just thinks, verily, 'tis my dark brother, Hades, god of the underworld.
Which is what you should think if you see Batman for the first time is, oh my god, it's the god of the underworld, come to get me.
And, with Conroy's delivery, he's just right. It's just like, I don't know what your deal is, buddy, but we're not playing this game.
Yeah, it's right on.
All right, before we jump into Superman, the animated series, and the subsequent series in the Diniverse canon, we're going to close out this episode of DC On Screen. We'll be back next week with part 2 of the Diniverse podcast. We are DC On Screen. You can find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and DCOnScreen.com. If, in fact, you want a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, you can go and check out our friends Matt Carroll and Jeff Randall at MCUcast.com. You can also find them on iTunes and Stitcher. I'm David C. Roberson of Maladjusted.tv, and we will see you next week.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, oh, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.